What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Happy Thanksgiving, Crypto Community Edition. Thank you so much for joining me again. And if you are in America and you are sitting around with your friends and family and they're asking you a million questions about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, send them to coinmastery.com/Bitcoin. It's a completely free course. It'll make sure that you don't have to sit there and walk them through it. They can watch the videos, goes through Coinbase, gets them set up. It's very helpful. So coinmastery.com/Bitcoin, completely free. There's no catch or anything. It's purely to help people so that you and I don't have to teach every single person how to do all this stuff and get them into this exciting financial revolution and opportunity. Today, we're going to do a truncated version of Coin Mastery TV because I am on apple pie duty. So I need to get down and fill my role. No pun intended. Terrible joke. Sorry, guys. I'm struggling right now. Today we're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about what's going on with Bitcoin and some rumors going around about Bitcoin Black Friday, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Talk a little bit about Ethereum. Go through a few of the altcoins as it relates to things like PowerLedger and a few others. Talk a little bit about some big news in the mining world. And if you're not a miner, you don't care about mining, this is still helpful for you. This will still be important for you. And then I want to wrap up with something called Survivorship Bias. That is a cognitive bias, or it's really like a social bias that I think is really helpful as we go into what I consider chapter 2 of crypto, right? This kind of started about a week ago. I think that this is going to be the next big run over the next couple of months. So let's just dive in. I think one thing that I want to do for me and for you guys is I think I'm going to actually buy this TradingView Black Friday sale because I can only imagine you must be sick of seeing this thing. So consider it done. So let's look at Bitcoin real quick. I'm looking at the 1 hour chart on Coinbase. And after the dip, we've had a few different dips that have had some pretty good bounce backs, right? We had the major dip, and then recently we've had a handful of these dips. And if you were like me and just nerding out on this stuff while it happens, you open up the order books. There's just massive support every time that the price gets low. In this case, it was 75, and then these were 78, then up to 8,000, meaning the price started to drop out of some random fear, whether it be Tether, whether it be the BitMEX or the CME futures or postponed or whatever, and the price would start to drop fast, and then there would just be massive buy volume that would keep it supported. And when you scroll out a little bit, and you can start to see that how this is starting to form itself, without doing any technical analysis, just very top level, it's starting to show of a lot of uncertainty in that particular formation. It's clear that there is a lot of uncertainty and borderline fear, in Bitcoin, but there's so much support, both from institutional people like Mike Novogratz and also just from the sheer amount of people buying up on Coinbase and other exchanges, that's creating a very interesting situation. So as we watch the Bitcoin price, know that those are probably the two forces pushing on it right now. And there's not a whole lot you can do about that because it could go either way. There's no clear indicator, which is anytime there's doubt in the market, you wait and see. Now, one of the big conspiracy theories I should say, is that historically Black Friday, which is tomorrow, right now it's, I guess, 1:20 Eastern time in America. Black Friday is the Friday after Thanksgiving, and it's like a consumer holiday of sorts. And many people are not working in the United States. Obviously, this is a global community, but Black Friday has been a bad day for Bitcoin in years past. I tend to think that there are no patterns in markets that are predictable other than dips and gains, right? I think that's really where it stops. And whenever I hear people telling me, oh, well, Mondays trade better than Fridays, or Black Fridays are historically the worst days, or Octobers are going to be worse than May, like all that sort of stuff, I tend not to believe it. I think that markets always work themselves out so that they are completely random in that sense, other than dips and support and resistance and things like that. So I'm not paying a lot of attention to that. If you are concerned about that, you can set your stop losses accordingly. I'm not going to do anything about it. Even if it does go down, I think that we're going to see a lot of support coming back up pending no other massive news. Now, the other big news, and probably the more important news, is Ethereum, which we actually talked about on Tuesday, I guess, at the very end, if you are watching, if you made it all the way to the end. And you can see here that Ethereum is really having a big breakout, which is exciting to see. All-time high on the US dollar chart. So the US dollar chart is looking really exciting right now. The Ethereum versus Bitcoin chart, and you can trade either one of these. It doesn't really matter when you get to these bigger coins. It's starting to show some good signs as well. Why is it happening? I think it's a long time due, to be perfectly honest. I think that Ethereum has a lot of potential that, even if I don't love the platform in general, I mean, I do kind of like Ethereum as an asset class, it is very attractive to the investment community. Meaning, all these guys, all these fund managers, all these private people that, maybe you've met some of them, maybe not, they come in and they say, okay, we want to put 50 million into Bitcoin or into crypto. Well, they can only put it into Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the only thing that's big enough. But once they get into Bitcoin, it's exactly what happens to all of us. You buy Bitcoin and then you start saying, well, all right, this is cool, but hey, man, what about all these other coins? And then they go down the list, and the next one in line is Ethereum. And then they do the research and they go, wow, this Ethereum thing is pretty legit. And they start to put money into it. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's driving this exact spike. I'm just saying that market force, that macro institutional pressure has been building. I've talked to the guys, some guys who are making those buys. And so seeing this happening is not that surprising, especially on the USD side, because there's demand that's going to come in other than BTC from the new money. And it's going to slowly happen. How high is Ethereum going to go? I think it could go high as $700-800 in the next few months. I think that the real, the thing that's going to make that happen is, one, they got to get their act together on these hacks, right? The fact that Parity Wallet gets hacked and it's like, oh, whoops, let's figure it out. 250 million. Oops. All right. I get the spectrum level left brainness of the tech community. I get it. But this is, you can't do that long term with investors' money. This is not how the game works. So as long as they figure that out better with things like Casper and Raiden and all that, that's a good situation. The other thing is they got to have a few apps that start to win on the Ethereum network, meaning a few of these applications, dApps, whatever you want to call them, that run on Ethereum need to start producing real results, business results, making money, showing real use cases. And some of them are, but you need to have a blowout, and that's going to drive the price through the roof. That's going to drive the price through the roof on anything. But that's what Ethereum needs. You start seeing a few of those, Ethereum's going to go through the roof. Looking at the Bittrex markets. Now, there's a few things to look at. I'm not going to get too deep into this. I think the big story, one, Bitcoin Cash is, like we talked about last week, it's a hedge against Bitcoin. I do not have like a picture of Roger on my wall being like, yeah, Bitcoin Cash is going to win. I don't care if Bitcoin Cash wins or not. I just know that it is a great hedge against Bitcoin because people hate the opposite so much. And so I think it's rising right now because there's a lot of uncertainty about this Black Friday thing, about the pressure in the top of the market. That's why you're seeing it go up right now. I think it's going to continue to go up a little bit, at least for a few days, as Bitcoin tries to get its legs. So I'm watching Bitcoin Cash. The other one is Dogecoin, which, as far as I can tell, is just like a very uncoordinated pump from like all of these Twitter traders who all just decided, hey, let's just make Dogecoin go up and make the price go way up, which is, it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing more crypto than that in many ways. One interesting thing, if you look at Dogecoin, I think this was like a week ago maybe, and I don't think we mentioned it on these videos, but let me pull up the one day and see if I can see the volume charts. Yeah, so you see this back on the 28th of October. Someone bought up 2.7 2.7, what is that? 2,700 Bitcoin worth of Dogecoin in one day on the exchange, right? And the price kind of moved, but they just cleared out the order books. It was something like billions and billions of Dogecoin. And now we're starting to see a pump later on. Often, this is how whales do it. So while you see it on Twitter, these guys will be like, hey, by the way, maybe we should do something with Dogecoin. Realize that back here, 3 weeks ago, somebody accumulated more Dogecoin in one day than in history. And now magically is pumping. So there's always a story to it. I do not know who bought it, who's doing it, like who's benefiting, whatever. But if you go on Twitter, you'll see 25 different people telling you 25 different reasons why this is happening. When in reality, the charts will tell you that on the 28th, one coordinated person or one coordinated group bought up an ungodly amount of Dogecoin. They're the ones who are making all the money right now. You know, it's not, this isn't rocket science. It's like, that's what the market is. So I think it's always, that just comes down to the idea of, you know, how are you justifying the price increases? And if you want to see an interesting discussion, go on Twitter, twitter.com/Carter Thomas. Look at the post I did about PowerLedger, because PowerLedger is crushing it. For all I know, this could be the biggest thing in the world. I do not have nothing against PowerLedger. And in fact, I hope anyone who owns PowerLedger makes a huge amount of money. But what I think is interesting is how people are justifying this price, how it goes from being like a $40 million coin to a $200 million coin in a matter of days based on a loose $8 million grant contract where they're not even getting the whole $8 million. And all of a sudden now everyone's talking about how the Australian government is like completely supporting PowerLedger. It's like, come on, that's not how, that's how stories are built. So I think that this is how this unfolds is going to be a very interesting case study in that exact thing, right? Same with, was it Quant or QRL on Binance? Can't remember the Quant. Yeah, whatever. You know what it is. Go QRL, it's on Binance. Same thing is happening, just massive runs. And you go on the social networks and you see 40 different people talking about 40 different reasons why it's the best. But they didn't think that when the price was way down here. But now that it's killing it, of course they, you know, that's the stuff you got to keep your eye out for. Not because, I mean, you should, it's good to play that game. I mean, you can make a lot of money playing that game, but realize that you are playing that game. It's a speculator's game. It's all about the gold. It's all about just the gold rush, right? And being able to get out before the next guy or next girl buys in. So keep an eye out for that. Now, How Long, they just released a new Bitcoin miner that is a direct competitor to Bitmain's S9 and the D9 and all that, you know, everything that Bitmain has. The reason this is a big deal is because before this, Bitmain really didn't have a whole lot of competition on the speed and efficiency of Bitcoin mining equipment. Now, this is not fully released as far as I can tell. I believe they're still rolling it out. So it's not 100%. I mean, it's confirmed by a few people, but it's still kind of like in you can't go out and it won't get shipped to you tomorrow type of thing. If this is true though, this opens up a whole new world of competition in the mining space, which that's great, man. I love competition. Get them to compete. You never want monopolies in any industry. And so this is going to really, really change the way that the mining world works. It also is going to change the way that Bitmain has a stranglehold over the mining community. It may change the way that, like, how they get support, how they work with different people. Will that affect Bitcoin Cash's price? I don't know. I don't think that that's to be seen quite yet. But this is going to be very, very interesting. This is a Game of Thrones. This is a political move way more than this is a mining move from a macro standpoint. Right? Obviously, Dragonmint wants to make money, or Halong, or whoever makes this. What's really interesting, just from a sociological perspective, is if you watch Jihan's Twitter, like how he's reacting to competition is very telling, and that's always something that you can learn a lot about a market by how people react to competition, right? Do they get defensive? Do they get mad? Do they lash out? What do people do when they feel the competitive threats? And I think that Bitcoin maximalists are a great example. When they see threats, it's just like, they throw fire at them. Same thing is true here. I think you're going to see more and more of that, and that's going to really impact the market over the next few years, or a few months and years. In the short term, I don't think it's not going to change the price. But as this rolls out and people start buying this instead of Bitmain, it's going to be interesting. We'll come back to that. Last thing, this is a general idea, and this is something that I think is coming up a lot that I'm seeing in social media, in crypto, in chat rooms, everywhere. Survivorship bias. If you don't know what that means, I'll link to this. It's the idea that, let's say there's 1,000 people and 15 of those 1,000 people achieve the goal or survive the journey or whatever. And then at the end, then those 15 people go on to write books and talk about, here's how it's done. And then all of a sudden everybody thinks that that's the way everyone should do it, because those 15 people survived. They now, like, how they did it must be the right way. And that is not necessarily the case when they might have just done something unique or lucky or something that helped them survive is not necessarily a rule of law. And I think this is a really important piece that I want to make sure that you guys know is a real thing, because I know if I was just getting started in crypto, or even if I kind of am just getting started in crypto, but if I was sitting on something that was going up like 5% and someone was telling me, oh, you should really stick, do the work and these long-term holds are where it's at. And I saw something like PowerLedger or QRL or any of these coins that are just going through the roof every day. And I was like, man, why can't, that's what I should be putting my money into. Like that's what I want to know. And it's easy to convince yourself that there's some rhyme or reason to be able to pick these. And obviously you can do your research, you can do your diligence, and you can come close. But for every PowerLedger, there's been 50 failed, 100 failed ICOs that you also could have put your money into that had the exact same profile, that had everything going for them. And just because PowerLedger and QR, like any of these other big boomers that happen, just because they're winning, they survived the whole thing and they got the pump, everything worked for them. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a strategy or that is where that it's going to happen again. And that is why you want to play the long game. And I think that this is one of the hardest parts, especially when you are in a position where you are in crypto to make money because you need money and you're not using it as a long-term investment. You're using it as an income driver. It's easy to confuse survivorship bias with like fundamentals of crypto, fundamentals of investing. When you see the winners and you say, okay, well, I'm just going to study the winners and I'm going to see why they won, instead of looking at the other 50 losers and being able to see, well, why did they lose? And really break it down into what the factors are. This is really important for the mindset game, which is, I think we can all agree, is very, very, very important, because it will help you not drive yourself crazy trying to chase these pumps as they happen. As you see things going through the roof, you can let it go and you can do your diligence and find something and buy in before the next big pump and be excited about 30, 40, 50% consistently and not get hung up on like, oh, I missed a 150 or whatever it may be. That is a crucial, important tenet to be able to make money over the long term in this game. And I think that that's something that I'll link to this. I would encourage any people. I think a great example, just to close up, is college, right? I'm not saying I think people should go to college. Don't get me started. But it's like, when someone says, oh, you don't need to go to college to make $1 billion. I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg, look at Bill Gates, look at all these guys who dropped out of college and they're all billionaires. And then being able to say, well, if they all did it, of course I don't need to go to college because they did it. Instead of realizing, yeah, but there's 200,000 people who didn't go to college who didn't make it at all. Right? And it's just important to be able to peel that apart and really understand what were the things. Was it college or was it something else that actually drove the success? And that's the thing you gotta focus on. Cool. With that, we're gonna close this up. CMTV light today. I'll be back Black Friday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Give thanks. Take a break from crypto. Eat some mashed potatoes, some gravy. If you're overseas, have a great day. I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out.